30.533.
All right, let's take a look at that. So I did first lap here. I think second lap might be faster if you crawl the first lap. That is, don't push at all in any of the corners, and make sure only to be adding like little heat to your tires, doing a little brake dragging here or there. But I think for our purposes, first lap is pretty darn good. So what I'm going to be doing is just trying to get full throttle as early as possible on 3 and 4. So I take a slight high line, but the thing is, if you go like right by the wall, it's not very good. At Texas specifically. So I kind of stay kind of towards the middle and get an angle to turn down really quickly, because really the most grip is found kind of in this groove here. So I kind of want to use that. I want to use that groove. So I turn down a little earlier than you would kind of expect me to, and just kind of get in that second lane and full throttle as early as possible, and we're able to get a decent run coming to the start finish line. So as we go from there, turn 1 here. So here's the thing about turn 1 is that if you are like in the brain of cutting this a lot, cutting the quad oval, you're not going to get set up for turn 1. So be more mindful about getting wide for turn 1 over getting like an extra half of a hundredth or something like that, cutting as much as you can. So I was really making sure to get outside as much as possible. And then from there, I do a little bit of a slow let off of the gas. You can kind of look at the gas right here. So a slow let off, kind of a couple stages. Why I'm holding both the brake and the gas there was because I kind of was just delaying. The brake and the gas I tell people never to use because it makes the car go straight, and that's true. But in this specific scenario, I needed the car to go straight, or else I was going to hit the apron. So that's what I was doing there. I could have driven it a little deeper probably, so held it kind of at that half throttle for a little bit longer as I'm turning down. But anyways, we eventually get there. We get to our trail brake drag, whatever you call it. And I just want to apex as late as possible while maintaining this momentum. So you can see I did a switch from the brake to the gas. How did I know to switch from the brake to the gas? If you look closely in the slow motion, you can see a weight shift of the car where it goes from just momentum carrying this way, and then it finally goes into momentum carrying this way. And the moment that weight shift happens, I go to the throttle. So watch this. Weight shift and then get on the throttle. You see that? The car almost turned down the hill just completely on its own. You see how my steering wheel is pretty much the same this entire time? That move was on the car. That move was a weight shift. And when that happens, I go to throttle, and suddenly the car is rotating off the right rear. That's how you drive off the right rear, and that's the key to getting a fast exit at turn 2. It's just doing whatever you need to do to get that weight shift, and then timing your throttle right after that happens. And the rest of it's just driving it off the corner. There's really nothing more to it. All right, so let's take a look at that one more time. All right, so in the corner, half throttle, bring it down to a brake drag eventually, try to get a late apex. When the car turns down on its own, we go to the throttle and we just drive it off the right rear, getting rotation from the throttle, pumping the gas when we need to, but it isn't too bad, a little bit loose, but that's where the speed comes from. All right, going to turns 3 and 4 now. In a lot of tracks or a lot of cars here, you're going to go full throttle, but the Xfinity car, you cannot do that. What I like to do is do a little breathe even before the car turns into the corner. You can get away with like driving it in and then breathing a little bit and then going, but that just seems a little more inconsistent to me. So what I like to do is just do a little bit of a breathe right before the big drop. And then once the car starts turning, I get back on the throttle with the banking, and I'm able to get to full throttle even quicker. So you see I'm off the throttle before I get to the banking, and now I'm kind of following the banking and getting as close to full throttle as I can, kind of just holding it at that 80-90%, or else the rears will kick out. If I was able to get to full throttle a little quicker, I probably would have gained a couple extra hundredths there. But you can only take what the car gives you. The more that you're in this pocket, so I wasn't super duper in the pocket. I would probably, like my tires are probably like right here, and being in the pocket's really with your left front tire being like right here. So if you're really in the pocket, you can squeeze a little bit more time out of it by just holding that throttle a little bit more and a little bit lower. But this kind of does the trick And you can see the car is just going to get loose, and I'm just going to drive it off the corner. It's a rodeo, but you got to survive it. All right, let's take a look at that one more time. All right. Half throttle. Then pick it back up slowly. Try to get in the pocket. Try to test the full throttle, but only take as much as it can give you. And then eventually go full throttle and drive it back up the track, and be sure not to slam that wall. All right, and we'll have decent speed, carry it back to the start-finish line. So now let's go take a look at the long run. All right, let's take a look at a bit of our long run here. So there's some interesting lines to go over here. B-Fix is very different Texas-wise than like the C-Fixed, ARCA, maybe not the Gen 4. Gen 4 is kind of similar to this in a way, but there are some tire saving lines and some things to think about at this track that you might not have to with other cars. So first off, turn 3 and 4, not full throttle. So what you have to do is kind of bleed the throttle at the beginning of the corner so that you don't have to do a ton of turn on entry, and then you just kind of delay your full throttle until you're really steady with the wheel. So turn 1 here, what a lot of people like to do is keep it a little shallower, and then what this does is it minimizes the amount of steering that you have to do at the beginning of the corner, which is a big right front tire wear component. And it's quite a bit slower than like going full out super wide entry in turn 1. But if you got some room, I would definitely go for it. You see turn 3 and 4. I'm not pushing the car, so I'm losing about 1/10 of a second just from not pushing it. I let out a little bit earlier to save. But you see here, stay a little lower, back off early, brake down to the white line, kind of get back to partial, hold it there for a little bit, and then drive it straight off the corner. It's going to be really tempting to get back to full throttle early, but just know that you're going to have to stay on partial just a little bit longer than you think with that shallow entry. So what I like to say about Texas Long Run is that how you use your tires in turns 1 and 2 shows up in turns 3 and 4. So there's not much that you can do in 3 and 4 to kind of differentiate yourself, but at the end of the run, when your tires have a big advantage or disadvantage, they really show up in 3 and 4 just because you either can put the throttle down or you can't, you know. So like for instance, kind of going into here a little bit early, but you get really stable on the bottom, and now I can go full throttle really early, and the car is completely stable. No issue there. Whereas maybe if my tires got hot, putting my full throttle down there just really wasn't good for it, and it would cause it to start to spin out. See, just hold that partial, and then just drive it up to the wall, use the car's rotation. Very consistent. A little slow, so maybe if you're under heavy pressure, you might want to go for your normal line. But when you have a little bit of room, when you want to save some tire, when you're kind of stuck behind somebody, I think that's the line to go for, at least on early run. When you know that this line isn't working anymore is when you're going into the corner and you find yourself just having to really turn the wheel. If it doesn't come naturally with that trail brake, then it's probably a little too late. So even there, I was starting to feel it just fight a little bit too much. Early off the throttle, partial, raise it slightly, be really gentle raising it, go back full. So once you get to that point of the run where that line just doesn't work anymore, then you just go back to the normal line, which is kind of easing it into the corner, getting it all the way to the bottom with partial, and kind of just wrap the bottom like so. Like that seems easier, right? But that turn in really hurts the right front compared to if you can just wrap the bottom. Wrap the bottom with minimal wheel input because you're using mostly your pedals. Oops. And that's what happens when you try to force your full throttle too much. But I think I got pretty much all my points across, so let's take a look at the tires real quick, kind of show how that's wearing the tires evenly. So we'll go in here, and you see 97, 96. So a little bit more on the right rear. That will maybe show up in turns 3 and 4, but you definitely want to preserve that right front as you're moving along, especially in turns 1 and 2. So keep those lines in mind. Try to see how long you can keep it shallow entry, but you have to use a really gentle brake drag and patience getting back on the throttle, and then back to kind of our normal line. All right, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.